of October 11th, Mayor's Advisory Committee on Trees. It is just shortly after 10 a.m. I'm going to move particularly quickly today through our agenda. There is a lot going on for, I think, everybody around this table with many of the things we're going to talk about. My intention is that we will be out of here at 11 or prior. The objective of today is a status meeting because of the things that we have on deck over the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to go differently in our agenda if y'all will indulge me and go directly to update by the chair. I have several things to chat with y'all about, but first of all, I wanted to make sure that everybody understands how the city works when it comes to noticing public meetings. When I work with Ann on an agenda, that meeting will always take place once it is noticed to the public, unless for some particular extraordinary reason, there's a reason to cancel the meeting ahead of time. If you already know there is no quorum, but that's not normally us, or for some other unforeseen reason. Otherwise, our meetings will always go on. The other thing that happens is when Ann puts out an agenda is for those folks who are signed up to get the automatic emails from the city on meetings and agendas, if I'm not incorrect, Ann, the system pushes out to everybody the agenda and the text, either. So yesterday, you got the October 21st update. We did it under the rubric of a meeting of the Mayor's Advisory Committee on Trees. So it's going to be our second meeting this month, and it just so happens it's part of our education led by Andrea, and we've got Dr. Talamay, who's coming to do the talk for us. So I hope there was no confusion. I understood there was a little bit of confusion with some members that this meeting had been canceled. A meeting won't be canceled, and if it is canceled, you'll get something that says it's canceled. So part of our publicity for the 21st was for me to work with Ann, who very nicely accommodated us yesterday with the language that went out to try to give folks plenty of time before the 21st if they want to come and listen to that lecture. Because I'm very hopeful that this will be a nice learning for us to see how many people show up and how engaged they are in the topic. And at the same time, it's going to be, as you probably know from reading, it's going to be a little leaning toward landscaping and insects and how everything works together. But to me, that also includes trees. So, and I'm sure he will be addressing that. So just a pitch from everybody, if you can talk to your neighbors, your family, as you always do, because I hear that there's a lot of activity going on in town with members of MACT talking to lots of people.
Knocking on doors. I hope it's positive.
Well, you know. I don't think you can criticize anything when folks are just trying to get the word out and make sure people are aware of the program that this group has worked on for quite some time. Also, just an announcement this morning, Liz Lingo is on training this week for the city, and she will not be here. I have a couple of things to announce on her behalf, and then we will look at a future meeting. So are there any questions about the email that went out yesterday, the 21st, Dr. Talamay? Everybody's aware.
Not
Susan.
a question, but I'll just add, if it makes you feel any better about
Please.
publicity. I've seen a lot of announcements of the lecture on social media as well. A lot of people have shared. It's a lovely flyer that the city did, just
Yeah.
absolutely lovely. Yes. And I've seen that shared far and wide, and there was even a post on Nextdoor about it, so I think
Well,
the word's getting out.
You know, the good thing about my being able to work with Ann a little early yesterday to get that posted before the Columbus Day holiday, because you know, the city is closed Monday. So
Right.
next week is a short week for folks. And so getting it out so that there's a little bit of time for things like social media to give it some additional prominence is always helpful. So Liz is not going to be here, but let me just go right into what I have from her. You know, we've been talking for some time about the fall planting. Yes, that's a yes from everybody?
Yes.
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 Just help me, sometimes I dream
No.
these things. I wonder, did I dream that at night?
We've been looking
No.
forward to it.
Yeah.
But we were dreaming
So-
too.
So Liz told us last time that, you know, she has a plan for primarily reinvesting in Rehoboth Avenue, especially the median. And we're all aware of the trees on Munson in Country Club. And then there are other areas around town that Liz has plans for. So just for today,
Such as Rehoboth Avenue.
no, Rehoboth Avenue is already the current priority.
Yeah, but isn't that going to be part of the fall planting?
Yes, that's what I
Yes.
just
It's a
said.
fall plan.
Yes, okay, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No, I just want to make sure,
Selective listening.
it's
so
all right,
far.
that's all right. I just want to make sure I'm being clear, because I'm hoping we've got some people streaming our meeting too. So anytime y'all need me to clarify what I'm saying, please do so, because sometimes I'm not clear, and people could very well be streaming. So, from her training, Liz gave me some information. It's off the top of her head that the fall planting is approximately 60 total trees throughout town. 30 approximately, these are approximate because she's not here to give us something more precise. Approximately 30 of them are on Rehoboth Avenue, concentrating more toward the circle. I don't really know what that means, but obviously it sounds like to me there's going to be planting up and down Rehoboth Avenue, and I think there are some areas toward the circle that are in great need of this. So I was glad to hear that. Munson, we have already talked about. We talked about it last meeting. I think the number on Munson is at least 13. Now, if you do the math on that, we're missing about 17 trees.
Yeah.
And Liz is going to have to take us through when we see her again exactly where the rest of them are going and the timing for all this. Because I think everybody will be very interested into exactly, as well as the community, not just us, when these things, because we've waited a long time, I think, for Rehoboth Avenue to get a little spruce up, pick me up, spruce. So I was glad to hear that. Andrea, do you have a question?
I do. Do you know anything about what she's planting?
I do not at this time. I don't.
The Munson ones, my understanding, are replacements though for the ones that have not survived there. So those aren't like net new, right? I mean, aren't they mostly replacements for what?
That's my understanding.
My understanding was that was a grant from.
Well, like some
2
of those
years
too,
ago.
yeah.
Okay, so we're not going to get down in the weeds.
Okay.
We're just going to be very happy
Yes.
that
great.
Munson is
Wonderful.
Yes.
a
No, it's
priority area. And when Liz returns, she may or may not address that with us. So I'm thrilled to see approximately 60 on deck for this fall, because I think our objective, if I'm not incorrect, is I'm going to be asking when Liz returns is, are we having a spring planting to coincide with Arbor Day? And to refresh everybody's memory, we have part of Arbor Day already mapped out.
Mapped out, yes.
And the plantings that are going to go on which park is that? Central Park?
Central Park.
Central Park,
Yes.
yes. And so I think all of this working together is really gonna be nice for the city. Other comments, questions? Elise, you've got a look on your face.
Well, I
that
mean,
you-
with raising the money that we're doing too, I mean, with the Commemorative Tree program, we'll have money now for more trees, correct?
Well,
I mean,
I
that's
won't
where-
put it that way, that we always have money for trees.
But I think people are asking how this money is going to be spent.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I want to clarify what our role is, and I want to remind everybody how this program got approved and how we came to it. This program, and it's just a refresher for everybody, because if you don't remember it the same way I do, please acknowledge that. But when we first came to this conclusion, one of our objectives, as was reported to the commissioners, was we wanted to get away from programs that had a linkage between an individual and a certain tree, a certain brick, a certain, whatever the idea could have been, and to look at our community more globally. So the first thing that I think we all need to be communicating to folks is that that's the premise that we have. For example, if someone asks that they would like to have a tree put in the tot lot, well, thank you for that feedback. We'll give it to Liz if she doesn't already have that feedback. But we're no longer in the business of guaranteeing if you make a contribution. That is not our role, that we will see to it that you get a tree in a certain spot dedicated to you. That is counter to what we agreed and what the commissioners agreed that we wanted to do. Is everybody on board with that? No challenges to that?
Yes.
Okay, so, and I know people may want to know, well, to Elise's point, where does the money go? The money goes into the fund for trees. However, we all know, and I've said this publicly several times, we all know that there is ability to access funding from the Tree Mitigation Fund. I've talked to the mayor personally about that. So that's a source of funds. Liz has her regular annual budget that has line items for all sorts of things. I'm not going to get into those weeds about exactly what her line items are, but they are for supporting the city when it comes to issues relevant to our arborists. So now we also have the Commemorative Tree Program, which is part of the overall view of where funding will come from. So what I'm trying to say, just for the record, Catherine Downs has joined us. Welcome, Catherine. What I'm trying to say is that I don't disagree that folks may be asking where their money's going, but the answer is not specific to where their money will be spent. So for the present time, if that question is asked, and rightfully it can be asked, our priorities are Rehoboth Avenue, Country Club Estates where the Munson trees are, and there are other areas in town that Liz has deemed priority areas. I just can't be specific on those right at this minute. But what we will be asking Liz to do as part of a discussion at our next meeting, whenever we decide that is, we will be talking about the, it went right out of my head, urban forestry plan, and how that dovetails into what we're doing, how to answer questions. And just,
Next month?
well, I just said,
I'm sorry.
depending when that meeting, when we decide that meeting is, and I'll get to that in just a second. So, is that helpful?
Oh, yeah,
Elise?
that's helpful. And to Susan's point, clarifying, it's replacement along with new trees.
And I just
Right?
call it planting.
Okay.
I just call it
But peop-
planting.
But, you know, when we're walking up and down Rehoboth Avenue, the business owners, I mean, I have to say, like to hear that Rehoboth Avenue is the priority.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and how could
So-
anything else be
Be
the
the-
number one
Right.
priority
Right,
right
right,
now?
Right.
Yeah,
They're gonna
yeah.
love it.
So,
And it's,
um,
I would say it's a combination of replacement trees on Rehoboth Avenue as well as new ones. But I guess we don't know. That's getting to.
I don't say those kinds of things
Yeah.
because I'm not an arborist.
Okay.
And it's,
Well,
you know, as we work with Liz, going forward with what's
Well.
included in fall planting, what's included in
Right.
spring
But I
planting.
mean, the owners see all the dead trees, so they're hoping they're going to be replaced. I mean,
Well, they don't need to hope
right.
because
Okay.
It's on the
hope
way.
springs eternal.
Okay.
But for us, the
Okay.
immediate priority, and Liz has talked about this over and over again, she has not been closed to the fact that Rehoboth Avenue certainly needs to be, I'm gonna say, planted and reconstituted. So I think that's a great development, and I'm really looking
Okay,
forward to
very good.
the date of when it happens. Sorry, I don't have it right now. I can't imagine it would happen before Sea-Witch. That might not be the best time to be out there.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm thinking, I want to say, Liz has said before, November.
It's a good time.
Yeah. So, and we'll have her with us to give us more specificity. Terry?
So the only reason I was gonna mention is,
Yep.
way back 4 months ago, when we were planning the Commemorative Tree Program, Andrea and I met with Liz directly. And as I mentioned to you before, we started with, what is a good date? If we had the funds available, when could you plant? And then we always had in our minds, it was the mid-November timeframe.
Yeah.
So just to clarify that.
I think that's
it's
right.
mid-November.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
But I also want to make clear, this planting, I'm not ever going to say that it is contingent on the money that we've raised. Because there are other areas of funding, because I firmly believe, and I will say this on record, and I will take accountability for it, that even if we had raised zero, this planting would still be taking place. So you can figure out from that answer that there is other funding. Those are the weeds I'm not gonna get into. My objective is the planting, the visual, the whole attitude toward neglect of Rehoboth Avenue really needs to be perceived differently, and hopefully this investment will take care of that. So, it's okay. One thing I did want to not forget to talk about is the composition of our group. This is our last meeting prior to the commissioners voting on the composition of all committees in town. They discussed the committee rosters? No.
Yes, rosters.
It's a different word I was groping for, I can't think of it. Slates, the
Slate.
commissioner slates, at the workshop on the 7th, I believe. And as far as I know, our slate is going forward for voting on the 18th. 18th, I believe. So we should have one new individual joining us, that's Joan.
Who's in our audience
Who's-
today.
Who has, she's part of our public at the moment, and we will welcome her if approved. And I just wanted y'all to know that if you weren't aware that that discussion was taking place at the commissioner level, they will vote, and then we'll be a new constituted group on the evening of the 18th.
And still a group of 10.
It's still a group of 10, because Jeffrey has,
So we got re-upped?
We got re-upped.
Really?
oh, everybody, yes.
Really?
Yeah, because nobody spoke to the fact they don't want to continue. If you don't want to continue, tell me now, or tell me after the meeting, because we'll tell Dick and Susan if that's the case. And then we'll be looking at the next year together of exactly what accomplishments we want to make. Because I'm just thrilled to death that I know it feels like some frustration of how long things take to get them done in a municipality. But I think part of the learning for me is how to speed these things up. And maybe that will turn into a better plan for next year of exactly what do we want to accomplish. Because once these patterns become a part of just, there's a fall planting, there's a spring planting, if that's the case, these things will then become part of the discipline at the city every year. And, you know, formalizing some of these things is probably good for everybody in our community to know exactly how these things will happen. And then, you know, another big area for me is talking with Liz about the status of the urban forestry plan, how that's going to work, and determining what are the other priorities. Because I know she looks at the city as a whole, but it will be good to be able to know in the hopper next are these areas of town. Is it South Rehoboth, North Rehoboth? Where is it? You know, that we're actually doing some things. And we already have a glimpse of that for Arbor Day for 2020. So I'm getting ready to leave this topic unless there's something else on. Okay, can I jump around terribly at the moment? Because we're talking about getting Liz to talk with us more about the urban forestry plan. And I was looking at the calendar yesterday because Thursday of this week, next week,
Next week.
thank you. Thursday of next week, we have our event for 4 things here in the city. The mural, the Commemorative Tree, Rehoboth Art League installation, and Coastal Camera Club. So all 4 of those are going to be taking place simultaneously. The mayor will be speaking just to commemorate that these things are ready and how they got there. Just briefly how they got there. I don't want anybody to be offended if all names are not, you know, spoken by the mayor individually. There's just not going to be time for that. People will be standing in the atrium downstairs. We don't have to worry about weather that way. We don't have to worry about moving people. So the objective in my brief conversation about this with Chris Johnson is it will be in the atrium so that once the remarks have taken place, then everybody can take themselves on their own guided tour, how long they want to linger up here with the paintings and the photographs. And there will be a huge opportunity for us with brochures for anybody who's come that might be thinking about, especially with the holidays, coming up.
Can't you just see?
That we have some folks, and I'm hoping, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but if you can make it on the 17th at 10 a.m.
No, 1 p.m.
No.
1 p.m.
1 p.m.
Well, that means I may be here hours early. So 1 p.m. on the 17th, that would be great. And if not, well, that's okay too, because there are other opportunities. The second opportunity for our group is the Dr. Talamay lecture. That is at 10 o'clock.
That is a 10
Yes. And it's good that the city pushes all these emails so everybody can keep it straight. What's going on when? Because we have a lot going on here in October, and I want to address that shortly. And Andrea, for Dr. Talamay, the agenda that Ann and I worked out is very simple.
Okay.
I will call the meeting to order. There will be a roll call just to say what members of our group and that we have a quorum. We have to have a quorum because that would be terrible.
Oh, boy.
Is anybody definite they can't be here on the 21st
At 10? I'll be here.
at 10? I mean, I'm always, we've only canceled one meeting and I think I incorrectly thought we didn't have a quorum. So,
There's a possibility, I might be not available.
that's okay,
Is
we
everyone
need,
else
we
available?
need 6.
Oh, okay.
So,
Alicia, you
I'm
gonna be
pretty
here?
sure we've got it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Then you need
So, so on Thursday,
Yeah, I think we'll have it.
yes, so Joan will already be.
No.
Yes, yes, on the 21st.
21st,
yes.
not the 17th,
Yeah.
right, 21st, great, yes.
So, so we've got the 17th,
This is getting very.
we got the 21st. I'll just be glad when we
that's
get
right,
to the
yeah.
end of
One more
October.
coming.
Then we've got the 23rd.
Right.
Pruning 101. Remember the discussions on pruning 101? Andrea, you want to talk a little bit about
Sure.
pruning 101?
Pruning 101. Liz is going to lead us. We are limiting the number of people to come because there's going to be a lot of equipment around.
Hands-on.
Yes, it's very hands-on. We are going to start at City Hall, and we are going to learn how to prune bushes and some trees. And then we are going to go across to Central Park and work on trees. So it is really hands-on, and there is a notice that has gone out already about it. But please talk this up. Please.
Is there an RSVP?
It
I was
is,
just gonna think.
there is an RSVP in the notice, and you're to call Chris is
Okay.
yeah.
And do we know
Is taking-
how we're doing on that, or whether there's spaces are still available?
Chris is not here.
Right.
So I don't know what the numbers are.
Andrea's being much more diplomatic than I. I think the RSVPs are very few at this moment. So if you're on the committee, and there may be one, and it's Andrew.
What time is it on the?
It's 1 o'clock, 1 o'clock.
And the
Thank you.
23rd of October.
Yes,
Wednesday.
Yes.
yes.
So we've got something Thursday of next week, Monday of next week, Wednesday, I'm sorry,
Monday
the
of the
following week,
Yes.
and then Wednesday of the following week, 17, 21, 23, for events for us.
And the,
And if you can't make it, I completely understand. Everybody has so many commitments for pruning 101.
But send us people.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've got, I've got 2 neighbors, honestly, that I'm already volunteering them. They're out of town. Big surprise when they get back, that I think they would be perfect for that, you know? So we'll see how they feel about it when they get back on
And I'll still have a
next
chance to
week.
announce it, or we will, Dick or I will, on
Yes,
the meeting on the
please.
18th,
Yes.
so.
Excellent.
Yes.
Anything y'all can do for us, I know you'll be thinking about during your commissioner remarks
yeah.
to kind of get folks focused.
Yes.
Well, also
As
during
we-
meeting updates, we can, meeting
Absolutely.
update, it's earlier in the meeting when people
Yes.
are still awake. so.
Yeah, well, yeah.
can other people come to the Doug Calamite lecture? Because I've already,
Oh,
I
absolutely.
asked.
It's a free
Yes,
lecture,
yes.
Okay.
open to the public, just
All
like our meetings,
Okay,
so anyone can come.
anyone can come, because I have a couple girls that work at Wharton's Garden Center that might like perfect come.
Absolutely.
Yep,
Yeah,
there's
that's
no
exactly-
exclusion
Okay,
for anything, if they would like to come.
okay, if
It'd be
they
great.
can, I will, I've
Absolutely.
asked, I've asked.
Yeah, there was one
Put
thing.
that up somewhere.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Sturgis,
I'm just
question?
curious why we're making that a meeting for us. I've
We're-
somehow missed that.
Just to notice it?
In order to live stream it, maybe?
Okay, we have a question from Sturgis of
Yeah.
why we made it a meeting.
Yeah.
We made it a meeting so
Okay.
that it could be live streamed. We made it a meeting so that it would be publicized for us
Okay.
through the city push emails.
Cool.
You have to connect the dots
I
here
got
of
it.
why we're
Yeah, that's a
doing
good idea.
some things as meetings, other things
I
as
hear you.
not.
I hear you.
Because it puts into motion,
Cool.
you know, some notices that can be very helpful to us. So that's why we did it.
Can I ask a logistical question? You mentioned that because it's a meeting, there'll be a roll call. You're not envisioning the groups, our group sitting up here, are you, during that lecture?
No, I think
Okay.
we'll be in the
Okay.
audience.
So just the formality of going through the roll call. and- But
Yeah.
we won't have to be.
I mean,
sitting
I will
here.
probably make just an announcement that the entire group is here, or
Right,
we have a
okay.
quorum, something like that.
Okay,
It'll be
that's
very,
fine.
very simple, take 2 seconds from me.
Yeah.
And Andrew, would you like to introduce Dr. Talamay, or do you want
Sure.
me to do it?
No, I'll do it.
Okay, Okay,
Honored, thank you.
Yeah, Katie, we want civilians here.
Civilian,
Civilians and
Okay.
professional. I mean, we want people other than us here,
because I have
as many as want to
Okay.
I
come.
get the sense there's probably there's a lot of interest in it.
Neighbors,
I-
friends.
okay, because I spoke to one of the, Karen that works out there, and she said she's always willing to go to, lectures and stuff, so she said she might be interested in coming.
okay. I'm really gonna digress, which is October is the most difficult month in the year, as I have been told recently, for city staff, because we have approximately 40 events in our little city. So these comments have nothing to do with what we have committed to for this year, but we need to be thinking for next year. And I'll take accountability, which I should, that anytime we come up with an idea, the first question I should be asking on behalf of this committee, not y'all calling anybody, me, I should be asking, do we have staff that can support us on that day or whatever is needed? So having said that, we just want to be very careful with next October and any month of the year. But it's interesting on October because we have lots of races. We have an event going on right now downstairs and many others like that. We've got now 3 things for the Mayor's Advisory Committee on Trees, 17, 21, 23, that we will be asking city staff to be available, support us, etc. So the only reason I bring it up is I honestly will do a very specific job going forward about making sure that 2 things, that when we come up with an idea, if Liz is here, that will be great because she is going to have to be able to tell us if that's a good time or not a good time. And I will be talking to her about the candid response that we need. Just because our committee says we want to do something on a certain day, we don't need to be in a position where we dictate that to city staff, nor have them feel like they don't have a choice. So I will be talking to some folks about making sure that there's a little bit different tenor going forward about our events. So that's not a criticism, it's just an acknowledgement going forward that I need to be aware, I will do a better job. And we will also, I know that all of us will be as helpful as we possibly can to get us through what's coming up in the short term. Also, if you have questions, concerns, clarifications about anything that you're working on, I know everybody will be very mindful of how many times we're calling city staff, how many times folks are scheduling separate meetings. You know, if you have only one person doing either our arborist work or, you know, any other area, something administrative for us, we just need to be mindful of trying to minimize that as much as possible. So going forward, as we have Liz in our meetings, it's a really good time to kind of, and it'll be my responsibility to facilitate. Let's think out a few months here, you know, before we get into the next season where things really get interesting from staff availability, exactly how we're going to accomplish things November, December, January, February, March, because in April, focus really starts to move. March and April, focus starts to move to the season that's coming and all of the prep that has to be done for that. So, having said that, I'm wondering what y'all's thoughts are for this group meeting, including your consciousness about your own schedules in November, December, January. Where'd that come from? November, December, March. Just lost a few months. And the reason I'm asking is last year, I looked back, we did not have a meeting in January. I think that's the one that I didn't notice because I didn't think we had a quorum. And we did. But I don't think we're any worse for the wear that we didn't have a meeting in January of 2019. So it occurred to me I should ask everybody, based on your responsibilities with families and holidays and travel, etc., do we want to remain consistent with a monthly meeting, November, December, January, etc.? If there's no major objection, if folks, I mean,
I
can't do November, but that's the only one.
okay.
I
Are there
can't
others
do
that?
January, that's
Okay.
the only one.
I guess I'm looking for are there 2 or 3 that can't do it in November?
And that would be November 15th.
Second Friday.
No, it's the, hold on, it's the 8th, I think.
Or the
Why don't we
eighth.
say Tuesday?
It's the 8th.
It's the 8th.
Terry, second
Oh, I'm
Friday.
sorry, that's right,
The
it's the
first
8th.
is a Friday.
Yeah, the 8th.
And the
So
13th.
who's
Won't be
on?
here.
So November is gonna be difficult or impossible for Terry?
No, I'm okay.
No, you're good.
November 8th.
Elise is good. Andrea, you're good?
I'm probably good.
Probably.
Just me.
Bunky's a no.
Yeah, I'm probably okay.
I'm okay. I'm never anywhere but here.
December, I'm a little more problematic.
Okay, so.
Yeah, December and January or.
Okay, so I will just be thinking about, it's amazing to me how quickly Sea Witch is gonna be here. And then to me, it's all downhill and it goes very, very fast. So in November, everybody be aware of what your commitments are. We will have our meeting, I will notice it. And then we can talk in November if we believe we have to be very efficient at our November meeting. Because what is it that we want to do? When are we gonna do it? Who's gonna do it, et cetera. And then it'll help inform us. Do we need a December meeting? Do we need a January meeting? And then we have to answer, do we have a quorum? Which
Might be
is
helpful
always
just
gonna
to
be
have
6.
this conversation at the end of each meeting.
Yeah.
In terms of the next meeting,
Yeah.
next 2 meetings.
Next steps.
So then
Yeah.
you're not gonna make any decision about December or January today?
I don't think so. I think it may be a little bit too early for everybody. I don't know if everybody knows their plans yet.
I can't come
Okay.
December.
Okay.
December's
I'm
bad.
probably not gonna be able to do January,
Okay.
so.
So we will revisit it at the November meeting. And Bunky, if you come up with, you're a no for December, January.
Right
Right
I
now.
don't expect that would be
Yeah.
a problem.
Yeah.
I know for sure. November.
So everybody, when you get home, put your holiday hats on.
I'd like to say, holiday.
Thank you, Bunky. That's very good. That's HOLLY, holiday. Get it, everybody? It's a landscaping joke. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, since I'm jumping all over the place, anything, Andrea, for this meeting on Arbor Day? Any update, or do you want to skip? I'm sorry.
over there.
Andrea and Sturgis and Andrea.
Kind of where we are right now is trying to figure out dates. The teachers when we did our sort of postmortem, said they would prefer, what worked for them was to have events before their spring break. And and their thought was the only communication I've gotten, which was from Jackie, she thought perhaps the first week in April, which would be from March 30 through April 3rd. Now, what we have to figure out is how that's going to work with the poster contest dates. So I have communication out right now to Delaware Forest Service and the teachers. Other than that, we know when the Art League is available. We've got Paula Holloway's schedule, and we're just trying to jockey all these things around.
So tell me that week again, April.
So she right now, she kind of said March 30th through April 3rd. But the thing that.
Tentative, yeah.
Yeah, that's a tentative.
When is their spring break? Is it the next
Their
week?
spring break starts on, I believe, the 10th of April and goes through the 19th.
Well, we've got plenty of time to nail this down.
We
but
do.
Just kind of knowing the general
But we've gotta get
idea
this,
here.
we gotta figure this.
And just so everybody is aware,
Mhm.
unable to sleep last night, I'm having nightmares about our beautiful new tree that has already been installed in the entry hall, in the atrium downstairs, that I hope everybody don't forget and get in your cars and leave. Take a quick look before you go home. And then I thought about the poster contest. And the posters all over and a sea of fifth graders bumping into that tree. So we will just be very mindful, or we will stand and guard our tree.
Build it.
Tables, remember the
Put
tables?
the tables in front of it,
The
yeah.
tables in front.
But
Perfect.
it's
Tables.
funny, it's funny where your mind goes at 3 o'clock in the morning.
I thought about that too.
Yes, oh my goodness, because the poster contest is always so popular.
Yeah.
It really is, and the kids love coming over here. So we just need to be, we'll be overly protective of our investment coming up then.
Indeed.
What else?
That's all that's
All
all
for the moment?
news at
Okay.
this point. Yep.
Are the leaves up?
You can see, the real leaves are not yet up, but we have paper leaves up to just figure out
mark it
placement.
out.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, go look at it.
Yeah, it's moving, isn't it?
Yes, and Terry has been leading the design portion of this with how the placement of everything is going to be. Andrea has been quite the sidekick from me standing and observing yesterday, and I found one helpful job, which was to cut the tape for her and give it to her as she put things on the wall. So I found some way to contribute
We
yesterday.
officially have a committee.
Yes, yeah, there's
Support system.
yeah, this is a very scary little group.
To take place, and
Yeah.
then I'm the leaf designer.
Yes, and then I'm running back and forth annoying people in City Hall, which is terrible. So I'll have to be apologizing to a lot of folks after this is all over with. But it's gonna be beautiful. I'm quite certain of that. Okay, so we have,
Can I say?
yes, please.
Yes. We had a goal of 30 leaves.
Oh, please, somebody give an
Yes,
update on
yes,
where
yes.
we are.
We had a goal of, go ahead.
Oh, I was just
All
gonna
right.
say very briefly, because I know you want to get out by 11.
No, we have plenty of time because I'm
Okay,
already
I'll just
coming
make
to
it
the
real quick.
end.
So really, I think if you go down to the atrium, please keep in mind, this is not the final layout of leaves. What I'm doing is today, the rest of today, I'm gonna be working on the placement of the leaves, and then we will have the actual acrylic leaves, of which we have 20 engraved at this point. We have 22 funded. Our goal was to hopefully have 30, but at least we're getting close. And we did that very quickly.
Yeah.
Probably within the last 2.5 weeks that they all came in. So anyway, it speaks for itself. Go down into the atrium. The tree is beautiful by Bill Wolf. It is absolutely beautiful. We still haven't finalized the placement because we're adjusting it a little bit. And then you'll see that there are paper leaves that are just kind of showing where the design is going to happen, and I haven't finished that yet. And as far as the amount of money that we've raised, because I thought it was up, we just got another check today, so I think we're up to, it was 15, I think we're up to almost 15,450 in funding.
That's wonderful.
And the good thing is that we have received a lot more of the $1,000 levels than I expected. So that has been a really good thing. And I know what I was going to mention too. In the October 17th, for those of you who can attend the presentation, one of the things that we've kind of talked about is, and Tony was mentioning it earlier, as far as hopefully being there, handing out brochures, I think we need to be a little bit vague in a lot of the answers, because a lot of people that have been coming up to all of us, and you probably have all witnessed this, where people have very specific questions. Basically, as Tony was saying earlier, the funding is, as we've been saying to people, it's not for specific trees to be named for contributors. It is money that's going toward primarily, first of all, to Rehoboth, the median strip, then to Munson Street, and then the Arborist has plans for further plantings. And I was trying to think what else we talked about in terms of trying not to be specific.
Well,
Do you remember any questions that other
And
people
in
had?
addition to not being for specific trees, it's not for specific locations.
Exactly.
Correct, yes.
Exactly.
And I thank you for bringing that up again, Terry, because as everybody leaves here, the only twist I would put on that is, it's not that we don't want to be specific, but being specific is the program that we decided to get completely away from when we came up with, let's have a commemorative tree fund that benefits our city. So it's not that we don't want to be specific, but specifics gets you into the administrative problems and challenges that we had,
Right. And it's
which was the
limited.
whole impetus. So I thank you for that.
Well, and I was gonna ask you too,
clarification.
if people, for example, on Munson Street, which I don't even go down to Munson Street anymore because people come out of their houses.
Here she comes.
Might be
Yeah,
very
I know.
smart, might be very
Especially
smart on your
when
part.
especially when they saw me taking photographs of trees.
Yeah.
But, you know, on Munson Street, for example, you know, not that we're trying to be specific, but Tony, would it be okay if, for example, if someone says, okay, the arborist is going to be planting trees on Munson Street. What are the specific trees? Is that something where we could say to them, it's at the arborist's discretion? You know, should we say something like, if you really want to know, could they contact the city? Because I don't think we should be fielding questions like that.
I wouldn't do that to Liz.
I know, well, I don't know, when people ask me specifics, I explain to them, I'm not involved with the planning of what's going in. I guess we
Let's
could
do
just leave it
this.
at that.
Let's do this. I think you've got a very wise attitude that we are not making the selections
Exactly.
of the trees. We have a professional arborist that is looking at the areas, looking at past performance, and making a selection. Now, what we can do, and I'll see Liz this coming week before the 17th. I'm sure I'll be up here needling someone. And I will ask Liz, has she already made a selection for Munson? And when we see each other again on the 17th, I can let everybody know that, of the folks that are here. So these are all good questions, but just absolutely keep in mind why we have a program like this. It is to get away from specifics and get into a mindset of everybody working and planning together for the benefit of the entire city. Not that I have a problem with people asking specific questions, because we have had programs in the past that couldn't have been more specific, you know. But our philosophy with the commissioners, when everybody gave consensus to this, was we needed to get away from the administrative challenges that it caused.
Good.
So there is a
Go ahead.
positive spin to it.
Yes.
It is taking that holistic look
Yes,
at the needs of the city and the beauty of the city.
right. And we have to prioritize it,
Talk
because
about it that way.
we can't afford everything all at once, you know, but so that's why we have a professional arborist to help prioritize what really needs to be done
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
first, second, and third.
Could I just make a comment? I mean, one of the things that, you know, I'm not sure we're talking about a lot, is that to me a benefit of this is that you're commemorating, is the commemorative function of having that sculpture and those leaves. And initially, you know, when that program was started, you know, I don't know whose decision it was to wed a tree with a monument.
No, me either.
But you know, but the monument was for a particular person.
Right.
And it just, you know, that's kind of how it happened.
Yeah.
So, you know, when I literally looked at doing this, I did it because I wanted to
Yeah.
have something permanent that said something, you know, or commemorated something. And to me, that's benefit enough.
Me too.
And I think
Duncan,
we're,
did you have something?
I did have something to say,
And then
which
we'll
is,
come back.
I mean, I wholly agree that we should basically be advocates for, obviously we're advocates for trees, but we should also be advocates for this program and advocates for the city in implementing the program. And I think it's, you know, obviously we don't want to be, we are not the decision makers. We're not going to do that. But I think we should be knowledgeable of what the process is and be able to articulate that to people, you know, to say that this is how it works. And I think we should also be knowledgeable, if we're not, and obviously it's moving forward, but I think we should have periodic updates as to how much money we've raised, so we can at least share that, you know, what I mean, and all that kind of stuff. So, and I'm not saying, I mean, I prefer not to use the word spin, you know, I mean, that has sort of a political connotation to it, but I mean, I just think we need to be knowledgeable about these things and basically be able to, you know, disseminate that.
Well, and just so everybody knows, the last time I talked to Liz about this program, she and I are going to have a meeting in November. We haven't picked a date yet, but just to Bunky's point about being informed, I want to be informed and then decide how we will share with our group exactly the line item that this might be important to our commissioners at some point, where our money's going to live in the whole scheme of the financial back end. So she and I are going to meet, but not until after we get all of these other commitments taken care of. So I think to your point, we have to be knowledgeable
Right.
to a certain degree.
And I think even expanding on that, as you talked before about the various funding sources, I mean, we don't have to, you know, hand spreadsheets out or anything, but I mean, I just think we ought to sort of know what can happen, what is like, you know, what is the policy, what is likely to happen, you know, in our conversations.
Well, and all this is very helpful as our two commissioners move toward the budget cycle for the year. Terry?
And one of the things I was going to mention, for those of you who are coming to the presentation on the 17th, you know, if you do, for example, we haven't had businesses really contribute to this. And I think that one of the things that I've mentioned to people that are business people that are just thinking, okay, I'd like to contribute, you know, on the leaf itself, it doesn't have to even commemorate anything. It can celebrate something. You know, it could say, you know, Johnson Sign Company, you know, we love our trees in Rehoboth, or we believe in keeping Rehoboth green. So as you talk to people, that hopefully there will be business people at that meeting or the presentation, you know, mention that to them.
Or Terry, it could be as simple as Johnson Sign Company.
Exactly,
Sure.
You don't have to make a statement if that's not what you want.
Exactly.
And the point is, it's in City Hall. I mean, it's just showcased
The placement is
beautifully.
terrific.
Yeah. So,
Is Bill Wolf going to be here Thursday?
Yes.
yes,
Oh, that's great.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
How long does it take to get the leaves up?
We're going to be spending this afternoon and possibly part of tomorrow, I'm not sure. Well,
Well, I guess from the time you get the check to the time that the leaves
oh,
are
okay.
engraved and put up.
You're talking about in the future?
Yeah, like
Oh.
if you know, if I were to go home and write a check for a leaf, and would it be up by the 17th? I mean, I'm assuming not.
Well, right now, I have 2 leaves to be engraved. Now, these will be up by the 17th.
Those will be up by the.
Yes, so, and I've told people if they can get anything into me by today, at least we have the next week.
17th.
So, yeah, but in the future, I think what we're gonna be doing is as donation forms come in, and what I've done is I'm keeping a master list directly from the donor photo, you know, I'm taking photographs of these, so I have exactly what's been written for the engraving. You know, I think the engraver, I mean, I think what we'll do is probably put batches of them together so that he's not doing like one and then the next day
And
he's
then
doing one. But in the future, we'll probably do a couple at a time, and he can do them very quickly within a couple of days.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we've already created the actual leaf. So now all he has to do is, depending on the tier level, 1, 2, or 3, he just engraves that particular leaf.
You ordered a quantity of each color.
Yes, what you'll see on the 17th is we will have, actually at this point, we were gonna do 100, but now we'll have 90 acrylic leaves up on the wall. The ones that are empty, that do not have an engraving yet, they are temporarily installed. And so that we can take them off, and then they will be permanently installed.
So it'll look like a full.
Yes.
Yes,
you-
because that's
yes,
what we
you want
want
it
it
to
to
look
look
yes,
like.
yes.
Yeah.
So when you go downstairs and
Yes.
see it, if you look up, there's a picture of
What it's
what it
gonna- what
really
it's-
will look like upon completion. But as Terry says, when you see it, it's already very representative of that photograph.
And it's, keep in mind, what's down there now, I'm working on today, so it's not
Cleaned up the leaves. So it doesn't look like it's already been, it's like winter and somebody's already cleaned up the leaves.
we're hoping to turn it into spring.
You know, that gives us an idea, if we ever get so many, that we have to, we may have to have a fall, winter, and then start over.
Wouldn't that be nice?
No.
So,
I also wanted to mention that I've also received a thank you note from the city already.
Yes.
And my mother has
Yeah.
always impressed upon me getting prompt thank you notes out,
Oh,
and I
yes.
commend the city for doing
That's
that.
that's what I was
That's
gonna
also
mention
very
too,
helpful.
when you mention, if you talk to people with the brochures and they're interested in a leave, please tell them they will get an official letter from the mayor as an acknowledgement. Because we've all gotten them, I think all of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was very prompt. So please mention that, they will get an acknowledgement letter. Okay.
so, any final thoughts, member comments, anything before the 17th? Yes?
No, so it's my
Terry?
understanding this is the official last meeting of this particular group until the November meeting when we have all the new members together.
That
Okay,
is
I've
a
got it
true
right here,
statement.
So what I wanted to say, first of all, and I think we all feel this way, Tony, I want to thank you because you, no, seriously, and for all of you, just so you know, even this past week, there have been issues that have come up that Tony has just taken into her own hands and just expedited so many things that we've worked on in the past that I personally was ineffective in doing, but she has expedited those. So I just want to say, as I think all of us feel, your efforts have been greatly appreciated, and I must tell you, to put it in perspective, and I know I sounded, Susan Sturgis and I have been on this committee for over 3 years now. The first 2 years when there were not things done, and what you've done in terms of you being the leader is phenomenal. And Sturgis is shaking her head because she understands what I'm talking about. What we've accomplished just during your tenure as leader has been phenomenal because we can look now and say, these are actionable items based on our mission statement that are now up and running. We have seminars, we have funding programs, we have future things. So I just want to thank you because I know that all of us feel the same way. So I want to thank you.
Well, just to wrap up today, I hope all of you know, and I said this from the beginning, I've never had so much fun with a group at City Hall. And I would say that sorry, but this is such a great group of people, and you've stuck with it. Your perseverance is amazing to me, knowing all the ups and downs that have taken place. But it's been my pleasure. We've got a lot of work to do, and thank you all again. You're a tremendous group, and we will welcome Joan shortly. And I promised 11 o'clock. It is 1 minute till. So we are adjourned for today, except Sturgis.
Committee
I
comments.
just wanted to let you know that I ran into this in letters.
Wonderful.
And this was a gentleman who showed up at a meeting about trees with the city back when Sam Cooper was still in the mayorship.
It was a
And
summer of
this
2015.
gentleman stood up, and he stood out to us for two reasons. One, because of his position as the president of the Delaware Native Plant Society or something. Delaware Native Plant Society. And also because he kind of challenged an idea we had about the caliper of newly planted trees and suggested that a smaller caliper actually would lead to better survivability. And so a lot of us who were sitting there going, no, we want bigger trees, kind of took note of this gentleman. And I just thought this was a wonderful statement about what trees mean to. It's so consistent with so many things that we've said. I wanted to make sure I shared that.
Thank you for sharing that, and maybe we can have some more discussion about it at November and figure out if it gives us a springboard to anything that we might want to do because of it. Who knows?
Got it.
So,
And I just wanted to say, we have
Please.
flyers for the 21st. If anyone has a place to put one, a bulletin board or business or.
Did you put one at Starbucks?
because they have that nice bulletin board.
Good point. That's helpful information.
I could bring some over to the chamber because they
That's
have
fabulous, yeah.
all kinds of
Good.
stuff in front that
Okay, that'd be great.
Good.
So let me give you some more. I'm gonna take these to the library, the Lewis Library.
Okay,
wait,
guys,
wait,
just for the purpose of our meeting, I think we have conducted all the status updates we need for today. We're moving toward the 17th. I hope to see as many of you as possible, and we are adjourned
Thank you.
for today. Remember, the recording is still on. Guys, remember, the recording is still on till 9.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is, it doesn't look
Exciting,
that,
all that's moving
it
along.
is, it's gonna be fun this year.
He spoke at
Would you
the planning
consider
commission
walking over there with
couple
me at
years
some
ago.
point?
He may have, yeah.
did the-
I remember
we did the
speaking
other-
up at that tree wing, I didn't
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
I just hug you because that was lovely.
Does that have the live stream? Because the thing that I want you to know.
I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to tell
It's
much
the old
from the
flyer, I
map.
don't know.
But I mean, I can tell you what things are
I'm moving away from that.
Okay, good. Thanks for
From
all
an
you're
artist.
doing.
Oh, you're
It's really exciting.
So like I said, it's not finished downstairs, I'm still putting.
Can't wait to see it. I
Yeah.
didn't come in that way, I came up the other steps and I didn't see
Yeah,
it.
the map's not in great,
Last
but
night when it was
could
listed, it
you
looks
do a
great.
walk around with me and let's just see if we can do it, you know, I'm available whenever.
Okay.
Whenever, you just give me a call, and it's, I'm not working, I'm retired.
Another guy.
But he's not a rock star like
All right, so
Yeah.
do you,
70 people showed up, so that's why I
Yeah.
wondered about.
Overflow.
Yeah, is there?
I mean,